Hello, this is wmpyr. Recently, in the comments section, I received a comment that said that it was Sensei Rick's anniversary, and by Sensei Rick, this is not the Sensei Rick that I've been doing the podcast style talk shows with. This is, I believe, referring to a different guy who is no longer with us. Richard Sensei Rick is what I call him. Is he was an instructor and he taught DTG Taihojutsu. Taihojutsu is it's originally a very traditional Japanese martial art that goes back a long time, very jujitsu like, but it's the arresting technique. So it was like for police and whatnot, because he was actually a Canadian police officer. Anyway, after his passing, we had like this organization, and from my understanding, he had this big dream that martial arts instructors, he had many friends on YouTube, and I was one of them on on this YouTube world where he met a lot of martial arts instructors online, and I believe his dream was that we formed this organization where we could travel around and do seminars together. It was a beautiful dream, and the one thing that I really learned from the guy was, at first, through him I met some other wonderful people. For example, like Great Bear, and definitely Uncle Cal. How could I not mention his name? So people like that I met through DTG Taihojutsu Sensei Rick, and so from there, I noticed that he had a bunch of friends, and I was kind of like more lone wolf. Not necessarily that I had that intention to just be alone. I've always been one of those guys more comfortable by myself, and I wasn't clique-ish. Not saying that this group is a clique, but I'm not a very cliquish kind of guy. I've always been just kind of like a solo kind of guy, and I wasn't like with the jocks or like with a certain type of people. I was kind of more just free, like that, and I didn't have those kinds of ideas. But anyway, so the reason I looked at him and I was like, the reason why he has so many friends on YouTube is because he's a very nice guy. He's respectful and he's very professional, and that is the greatest lesson that I learned from him. And he treated me with the utmost of respect, maybe too much. Okay, he was super polite and everything, and he was a pleasure to converse with, and I think that is something that's very important. He never got into the mudslinging where on YouTube there was a whole lot of, this style is bullcrap, it doesn't work, your techniques will not work in a real fight and it will get you killed. He never took part in that, and I thought that was admirable, very professional. And I watching that, I learned some extremely important things, because when you say to somebody, who spent, 5, 10, or maybe their whole life training a martial arts style, I don't care what it is, maybe it's Aikido, right? And you go, Aikido is not a realistic style, I don't think it works on the street, or, you say something like that, that's disrespectful. This person just put their whole life in there, and it is not a nice thing to say, okay? So you can't just say it like that. You can't just tear down a person like that. You can't just rip them to shreds. And a lot of people that do that, in their mind, they're thinking, well, I'm not mudslinging, okay? I'm just telling the truth. That's what they're thinking. They're thinking, I am a very direct person and I'm just giving it to you straight. So that's actually a nice thing that I'm doing. I'm telling you, you're wasting your time with that style, you know. So that's what they're thinking. But in reality, okay, in reality, they don't care how you feel. They're using truth as an excuse to be extremely rude and mean to you. That's what they're doing. Okay? So, in other words, from my point of view, they're being a tyrant, a dictator. Because a tyrant and dictator, they don't care how you feel. They just say what they want to say, and they're just out of control, and they have no consequence to what they say. They could say whatever they want. If somebody dies from it or is hurt from it, you know, they don't care, you know. So to me, that's the kind of attitude that you're having when you use truth as an excuse or anything as an excuse to say these mean things. There is a different way to do it, okay? So if you really care, you wouldn't say it like that. What you should be doing is you should learn the style, learn the technique, and go with them and try to figure out, put in the years and try to figure out what it means, how to evolve it, how to change it, modify it respectfully. There's a way to do that. If you're not doing that, if you're not on your hands and knees, you know, bloody sweat and tears doing that with them, you really have no right to talk, you know, because you don't know, A, you haven't put in the time, so you don't really know what you're talking about. Okay, now if you don't want to do that because you don't have to, and I get that, you know, if you don't want to do that, then you shouldn't be talking about them. Leave them alone and working on what you want to do and make sure that you don't make those mistakes that you're seeing over there, but you don't say that because it's rude, you know. You can only speculate and go, I think those are mistakes that they're making. So over here, I want to take a different direction and make sure that we don't do what they're doing. But you got to give them the benefit of the doubt because you don't understand their process. So you can't say, I'm not going to make the mistakes because they're stupid and those are totally mistakes that they're making because they don't know any better. We're smarter and we're better, so we're not going to do that. You don't want to say it like that, you know. You got to be very, very careful with how you present this stuff. Yes, it is important how you present it. So this is the same thing as like someone looking at a poor country, you know, and go, yeah, their government's messed up. Government doesn't care. It's all screwed up. And that's why the poor people, the citizens, you know, they don't have the right facilities. They don't have a good educational system. That's why they're poor and that's why they're starving. You know, it's real easy to just look at a country and say stuff like that. Okay, it's very cruel. It's detached. It's disrespectful. You really don't have the right to talk that way. Okay, and people go, well, it's a free speech. Yeah, but you're a jerk, you know, for saying that. 100%. You know, so instead, what you should be doing is actually go to that country. Once again, get on your hands and knees, get dirty, get in the mud, talk to the government, work with them, and build stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of bad things, but you got to find the good things, and you got to help them build, you know, a water canal or help them build things to make the society better, you know. Start changing things about the government. That's what you need to be doing with your getting your hands dirty. If not, like I said, you don't want to do that, then you should be doing things in your own community to help out and make sure that it doesn't turn into what you're seeing over there. You know what I mean? So why is all this important? This is all important because martial skill, okay, what we're learning when combat skill and fighting skill, those are all skill, okay? When you take it very seriously, it becomes martial path. You know, Bujutsu becomes Budo, the martial path. What it means to me is very simple. It's a lifestyle. Okay, and when it becomes a lifestyle, you're thinking about this 24/7. All right. So why is this important? The importance here is because if you are one of those people that just says things without thinking of the consequences, without really caring about how the other person feels, without really getting in there and helping the person, and you just from a distance judge them and say negative stuff that's not going to help them, okay, believe it or not, it's not going to help them. If someone came up to you and said, you drew something, you did an illustration, and they're like, yeah, it sucks, that's a very cruel way to help somebody. They might go, wow, it's really bad, I need to go to art school. But yeah, that's not really helping them. That's a very cruel thing to do, and that's what you're doing there. So if you have that kind of attitude and that kind of mentality, which obviously you do because you did that, that means in your everyday life, the people that you love the most are suffering for you, because when you interact with the people you love the most and the people that love you the most, the closest people to you, you're talking to them the same way because your mind doesn't change, okay? So you're telling them exact same kind of stuff, using truth as an excuse to say hurtful stuff that really doesn't help well, or there's so much better ways to help out a person. And you're completely ignoring emotions and feelings and the psychology, which all exist in a person, okay? So that doesn't help you in your everyday life. In fact, I would say in your everyday life, this occurs a lot more than an actual street fight, okay? An actual fight situation, actual combat situation, unless you live in a very, very bad neighborhood, or you're a soldier and you're in a war zone, or your career is very violent or something, the average person doesn't get into combat that often. It's a small percentage of your entire life, okay? So in that case, dealing with your loved ones, your family, your friends, your husband, your wife, your daughter, your son, your parents, that happens way more frequently. And so learning how to talk to them is extremely important. More important, I would say, it happens a lot more often. So it's more practical than just pure fighting skills. Okay? So like, what some people may still fail to see the connection there. What I'm trying to say is, like, for example, if you go into a room in your everyday life, like a business meeting or something, or out there in the real world, and you go into, I don't care, the grocery store, you go into somewhere, and you're noticing that you're constantly butting heads with people, and you see people are not liking you, and they're combative towards you. There's something about you that you are projecting out to people. Maybe you're going in there and acting like you're the baddest, meanest dude, and everyone should be kissing your butt. You know what I mean? So that could be the situation that's happening, and people don't like that, And so let's make it more extreme. If you ever go to prison, which I hope none of us do, but if you ever go to prison and you have that attitude, you walk in there like, I own this place, I'm the meanest, baddest dude, that's probably the fastest way to get beat up. And worse, probably. They're going to give you an attitude adjustment. Now, on a much smaller scale, this could be as simple as calling your mom on the phone. You talk to your mom, and you notice that you guys butt heads. You just argue back and forth with your mom. It's very confrontational. All three of these are confrontations. They're all connected. Obviously, the prison one is the harshest, and that's the place where you don't want to be practicing, okay? But with your mom, when you talk to your mom and you notice, man, I'm always, it's combative, our conversation. So then you start examining yourself and you start going, well, it's certain things that she says. And rather than attacking her, it's because she has this problem and she says, she talks to me like this and this, and you're just blaming her. So don't do that, okay? And now you start making a strategy. And you go, when she starts saying this and I start getting, hot-tempered, I'm going to control my emotions. I'm going to recognize it. I'm going to breathe. And I'm going to make sure I don't fall into that old trap where I just go right back and we start arguing again. I'm not going to do that this time. So you're checking yourself, you're controlling yourself, okay? You're managing your emotions. And then now you have that strategy. When she says this, because I know she's going to do it, then I'm going to respond differently. So now you're following a strategy. All this, what I just said right now about talking to your mom, these are all extremely useful skills for combat. In fact, you need to have it if you want to do well in combat. Okay, the ones that are not able to do this are the ones that are going to have a harder time, much easier to predict, much easier to defeat in combat. Okay, so it is interconnected, and that's where what I said about the jitsu versus the do, where it's just a skill versus now it's a life thing, it's a way of life. So once you're able to transform martial arts into a way of life, you're not just training an hour or 2 hours during the day, you go to class or you go to your garage and you train for that much. No, now you're training 24/7. So to me, then once you're able to do this, man, martial arts becomes way more exciting, and it really, really, you see the benefit that it starts to help you out in your everyday life and not just your combat skills. So I hope this makes sense. These are the kinds of things that from watching Sensei Rick being a professional, I thought to myself, and I was like, why is he doing this? Is he just being political and just, trying to just get along with everybody and being like a hippie? Oh yeah, we all should get along. We're all martial artists. No, to me, there was more than that. So these are the very valuable lessons that I learned from Sensei Rick that I'll be extremely grateful for. So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.